In today's world, we are synonymous with the leadership that goes forth, that is projected, that is seen. Another thing that goes hand in hand with waiting tables is serving.
Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome back to our series of leadership of Roundtables, and today we are going to talk about grace to wait tables, and we are going to have our Pastor Jason talking to us about the grace to wait tables.
Allow me to introduce it this way on the topic on grace to wait tables. My assumption at this stage is let's try imagine you're employed in a big hotel. In this big hotel, you have like about 300, 400, 500 customers that frequent your hotel every other week, every other moment, every other time. Now, as these guys keep coming to your hotel, all you have to do is ask them their names, book them in, get them a nice bed, and then after booking them in, giving them a nice bed, call them over to eat. Let's say it's in the evening. Now, as they start eating, as they are seated down, they are eating, then your work is just to wait on them or await them next to the tables. Like you're just having this nice white towel on your hands, and then they have to ask you, could I please get the serviette, could I please get the spoon, could I please get these? That's what we're talking about today. And so I coined the words grace to wait tables because trust me bro, it needs a lot of grace to wait tables, especially for Christians. Like it takes a lot of grace to wait tables in the Christian space. Yes, so basically that's where I picked it from. Of course, trying to look at what it meant both in the New Testament or in the Bible, and what it means for us who are here today listening to this or watching this. Yes, thank you.
All right, that is a good introduction of our topic today. If I could really ask you, Pastor Jason, what did it mean to be a leader, or what did it mean for leadership back then in the old days?
In the old days. Thank you very much for that question. Back then, leadership, especially us looking at the aspect of the grace to wait tables, leadership then meant real servanthood. It meant serving the people. It meant being spread thin to such an extent you serve, you give service, you speak to, you know, like it was just so much then that was needed that maybe right now we don't see in our world today. Let me take a case in case in the book of Acts chapter 6 verse 8. The Bible says, Stephen, a man full of grace. Of course, God had given the power and he performed great miracles and works amongst the people. But that aside, the same Stephen, when you look at him vis-a-vis all the other disciples, Stephen is not called to be the one preaching to perform miracles. Stephen is the one called to stay at home, so that when everybody else has preached, has come back home, and they are done with the sermons and they're done with the miracles. Like when all the disciples were reporting home, they were leaders in their own conspicuous ways, but Stephen's leadership was so pious that you'd barely not notice him. That's what leadership meant then. And so when these guys are from preaching, maybe from missions like today, and they come home, That's when Stephen's leadership starts. And how does it start? Stephen has to tell them, oh, by the way, now that you guys have arrived, what's going to happen is simple. You'll sit there and I'll serve you. It was a different kind of leadership. You see, in today's world, we are synonymous with the leadership that goes forth, that is projected, that is seen, where we walk out there, a miracle has happened or something, people are happy. But Stephen's kind of leadership meant staying at home when people were at the field preaching. It meant preparing meals at home. It meant finishing with the meals, getting the choice meals for everybody, so that when these guys come back after preaching, they have to eat. And so leadership then meant not just standing on the pulpit and preaching, but also staying at home and serving back at home.
All right, that is fantastic. I've gotten to understand mostly on the part of maybe on the part of leadership being behind the scenes back then. But I really ask you, what does leadership mean nowadays in our present time? What do you understand about leadership? When person mentioned about leadership, what do you get from that in our present days?
Thank you very much. In our present times, leadership has been decolonized, for lack of a better word. What happened to leadership is there's a structure, there's a way leaders should appear today. Like I can mention so many things when it comes to leaders. It's in their attires, what they wear. It's in how they speak. Leaders are expected at times to have come from certain schools, or they subscribe to certain school of thoughts. And today leaders are not what they were back then. Then to be a leader, especially in the biblical context, you were prayed over. That's how they were choosing leadership. And after they've prayed over you, you'd be picked, brought into the fold, and the next step would be you must have walked with Christ or confessed that. But nowadays, leadership has been reduced to, at times, endorsement. And so I endorse you in my closet or from my closet without others knowing why you're basically endorsed. At times you're not endorsed because you're a good person. You could be endorsed because you're my friend, like you're my friend. And so I endorse you because I know I don't want this leadership thing, maybe because of the benefits inside, to go far, far away. I want it to be retained round about us, like just you and me, closer to us. And so ministries, at times you find legacies of a father to a son, to a daughter, not because the daughter and the son are anointed and called, but because the ministry shouldn't leave the homestead. And so the dad knows if it leaves, it's never coming back, because the other assistant pastor in church also has needs or things like that. But then that aside, going back to your question, allow me also to rephrase it, my answer this way, that leadership then was different from leadership today, not only because of how leaders were chosen, but also in how leaders served. How did people serve then, and how do people serve in the now? Today, I could serve with a lot of vim, vigor, because I know there's something coming by the end of the month. And so, if I'm on a payroll, I'll appear in the morning at 8. I'll wear a suit. I'll wear anything you guys want me to wear, because I'm called to that. But the place of leadership where we await tables is lost to the place of leadership where people stand on podiums to speak. And why is that lost? Why is it that those footsteps are lost in our community today? Because the books we are reading today describes leaders as these guys who are forever at the helm, offering leadership and others giving followership, and nothing else goes. Like it's just leadership, followership. Nothing else goes. So when we come back and settle and realize Stephen didn't have the opportunity to preach in the fields, but when he was accosted, the Bible says in the book of Acts chapter 6-8 that I had read, that Stephen was performing miracles. Now, how was this happening while Stephen wasn't a leader per se, or called like the other disciples that we knew? It was simple. Stephen was so diligent in awaiting tables when these guys came back at home that God could never afford to leave him as such. He had to walk to the fields like the others, preach, speak, and we are not told he went to several places like Paul. Like we don't read Stephen in Iconium and Stephen has gone to Judea, Stephen has now gone to Samaria. No. Stephen doesn't even have a missionary journey, Like Stephen naturally doesn't travel from any town to the other. We just told of once. There's just one portion where he's found traveling or something, and something happens to him, and in the din of all this he's caught. And that's when people realize, so Stephen is knowledgeable, because the way he expressed himself, quoted scriptures, showed boldness, was more leadership than the people who are always the face of the ministry, standing on the pulpit, preaching and doing every other thing. Like Stephen's leadership that was looked at as something behind the house or right inside the house next to the tables, it was such a great ministry in the presence of God that Stephen was endowed with the same gifts that all the disciples had. And so no disciple would wake up one day and tell Stephen, you just feed us tea during the first and second service. You just give us water. You just give us, watermelon or something. Or you just serve us rice, bro. You don't know what this thing is all about. The Bible says in Acts chapter 6 verse 8 that Stephen got to the extent grace and power was abounding in him, that great wonders and signs were wrought through him amongst the people. When the Bible talks about us as people who perform miracles, we are so happy. We only hear it in one instance, that Stephen had all these. Just to mean, leadership today is very different from what we had then. Today, leadership is all about pomp and color. Leadership is all about, what can I show? What can I... These guys don't know me. Let me tell them. Let me, And then we realize that you're a leader and you didn't even study in Kenya. You studied somewhere abroad. Then now we start, we like you immediately. We realize, you didn't even study inside the country. We all of a sudden like you. Then you move from that place and we realize even the school you went to in Kenya was like a national school, one of the best. Automatically, we aligned towards you. Why? Because there's a way leadership in our country, in Africa, has been aligned towards certain things that we consider things of power, or certain, paraphernalia that when you hold on to them or you have them, you're looked upon as a person with power. But in reality, like in stark reality, leadership should be servanthood. The grace to await tables is the hardest, because somebody eats the best, bro. Like you see somebody eating, and it doesn't matter whether you've eaten or not eaten. You're just next to them. They tell you, I need water. Like, okay. That, according to me, is what leadership is the kind of leadership we should exemplify. When you're waiting on somebody, I was once in a hotel where you must eat with wearing your full jacket and tie and everything. I tell you, bro, everybody is given one guy to wait on him. One guy. This person, even if you want to walk to the washroom, like they walk you, nice, like they open the door and then you get in, you're like, what? It's not like they're not doing that because you're paying or something, but that's what they've been told to do. That's the standard of the hotel. And so, if personally we took leadership to that extent and looked at it like, today if I'm called to Nairobi or to whichever place, and all I have to do is to wait on you on a table, and you get in first and you tell me, by the way, before I eat, I always wash my face. I have to know, by the way, the person I'm waiting on washes their face before they eat. So I have to make sure that the provisions for face washing is there. And the second part, maybe tell me, after washing my face, I always chew a gum before I eat. So I must make sure I get your favorite gum. What kind of gum do you like? Do you like mint or do you like, fresh? Like, what do you want? I get you your gum. Tell me the third part, or by the way, after I've chewed my gum, the other part that I always do after chewing my gum is I always take water, and it should be room temperature, and with 3 droplets of lemon or the citric acid. And then I do that. I'm doing it to precision because I'm waiting this table, and you're my most important guest. And then you tell me after that, okay, now you can start me off with the starters in the meal. I need soup, but I only take asparagus soup. And so I have to go look for asparagus soup. And that day if we made maybe mushroom soup, no, it doesn't fit. Mushroom is a bit close. Maybe we made the tomato paste soup. We don't use that. We just use asparagus soup. We bring you that and we ask you, do you want 2 bowls or 2 or 1? You say, I just want 1. Then we give you the 1 bowl. Then you take it, you finish. I have to carry it off the table. That's a waiting. That's waiting on the table. So, I know I've said much, but according to me, that's how leadership should resonate. Where if you're to wait the table, you wait the table. If you're called for other kind of leadership, you do it. But today's kind of leadership and grace, we are talking about the grace to await on others. It needs patience. It needs being patient with. There are people you wait on them, they are slow eaters, bro. And so you won't like how they are eating. There are people who eat fast. There are people who, they're messy eaters. They eat, they spill things are strewn all over. But you have to await them. You have to wait on this table. And so that's the kind of leadership God is calling us to have. How ready are you to wait on the table as a Christian? Yes.
Wow. Wow. That is dope. That is dope. So I've gotten to understand that being a leader, leadership is not about being on the limelight, but also leadership is about serving others, even from the back of the tent or from your lowest points. You can be able to serve people and become a good leader. Now that we have talked about leadership in 2 phases, our old days and our present days, which kind of leadership would you really want to recommend, or which phase of leadership do you really get to maybe recommend to somebody, maybe to become a leader on the side, maybe on the other side of the old days and the side of our present days now?
Now, with all these in mind, allow me to give you a bit of what I realized was a requirement for the leadership then, so that we look at the 2, and then you see why I'm recommending what I'm recommending. Then, for you to be a leader, number 1, you had to be full of wisdom. The Bible says, and they picked the 7 deacons. Number 1, they were men full of wisdom. Number 2, they were men of good reputation. And number 3, they had the grace to serve. And I know we've inclined so much on the grace to serve and leaned so much on that. But we've had great people like Kenneth Hagin, Billy Graham, and other great preachers that we really love to listen to and hear about their ministries. Like, we've literally seen what they're doing. We've heard what they're doing. We are like, what? These guys are great. These guys are good. These guys are awesome. But at one point, it's when we engage with their books that we realize they are men full of wisdom. It's when we engage with their testimonies, we realize they are men of reputation. It's when we engage with them like on one basis or in their ministries, then we realize that they are men who are having the grace to serve. What does it then mean? Being full of wisdom. And being full of wisdom means it's the wisdom to decipher what to say, or to have your words seasoned with salt to such an extent that you do what Christ does in the book of Isaiah chapter number 53, where the Bible says, a bruised reed he will not break. Being full of wisdom means standing out amongst your peers, or amongst the people around you, or in the places, in the place of work, in the places we work at, or hang around, or do our things. It means standing out in those places to such an extent, people can come to you and ask you to advise them. Though you're not the CEO of the place, you're not the, you're not the counselor in the place. Like a company has a counselor, but you counsel more than the counselor. Why? Because they've realized that you're full of wisdom. You can speak and heal somebody's heart. You can speak and offer. You can embalm wounds that are in people's hearts. That is being full of wisdom. Number two, being a man of good reputation means the very same things you speak of and tell people to do, to follow, to walk in this kind of path. Walk this way, walk the other way. Those things that you keep asking people to do, to follow, to, you walk in them. And so when people ask around, like let's say people are to vote, who is so diligent in this place, has a good reputation, people would vote you automatically. In as much as they also have good reputation, they realize there's an echelon or a place God has just stabilized you at, and it is such a great place, your wisdom, your everything oozes just beauty, and that's it. And then the third part of these is the grace to serve. As I started telling you these, it's one thing to say you serve. It's another thing to actually serve. You see, today preachers are full of, my name is so-and-so, and by God's grace I serve at God's Grace Church, whatever church. But you follow it up and try look at them and try see what they're doing. Then you realize, by God's grace I serve at, it's just by word of mouth. They don't really serve in that place. What happens is, in that place, at times they are pastor, and they don't offer leadership per se, as in leadership, but then they offer rulership. They rule with a rod of iron. And this is not just relevant to places of worship, but it's also relevant to the corporate world. And I know you asked about leadership, but I was just bringing the older style of leadership, what I was seeing from what Akina Stephen were doing. Those are the prerequisites for you to be chosen. You had to have those three things in abundance, and they had to be seen. And you asked about today's leadership. Today's leadership, I told you, it's not bad like what we're doing with our leadership today, because I'd be a hypocrite if I said what we're doing today is not leadership. No. It's leadership still. It's good, it goes, it stands, it's beautiful. But then, I'm just telling you, at times the way leadership is dressed in our community, with the kind of suit leadership is dressed in, the kind of phone leadership carries, like those gadgets and everything is not bad. But you realize by the end of the day, some of our leaders are a bit showy, and so it intimidates. So I would that somebody finds a balance between the two, knows when to be a man full of wisdom, good reputation, and the grace to serve. And also, if God has blessed him, he shouldn't live like a pauper, where now we think a man of God is appearing in coats that are torn. He should have the right kind of dressing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Again, to ask, you've talked about leadership in the ancient days,
Yes.
and the leadership in the present days, and maybe there is a notion that people have in mind that you cannot lead a person who is higher than you,
Yeah.
or maybe that notion means that if you have to lead people, you should be on the top so that you may lead those who are below you. So maybe you have talked about some values that maybe a leader could possess for them to be a leader. You've talked about patience, you've talked about a reputation, you've talked about but what are other values that a leader should really possess for them to be that leader?
It's a very good question. Let me say this. The value we have that we can build any other thing on is where the Bible, I told you, says some are called to await tables. Now, why is it that I'm so insistent on the value of waiting tables or waiting on others? Because another thing that goes hand in hand with waiting tables is serving. Where you go sit down in a hotel, you pick the best food or delicacy that you want. After picking it and writing it down and saying, this is what I want, could you please get me this? You don't go pick it from the kitchen. The same person who was waiting on you as you were eating and watching and staring has to go pick things and serve and give. And serving is another great attribute when it comes to waiting tables. The people could wait tables, but they don't want to serve. They just want to wait for the sake of being there, just looking at you and staring. But waiting and serving at the same table is very good, of utmost importance, and offers what I can call a clear-cut authority when it comes to leadership. Because very many people, very, very many people in our world today, very many people want to be served and want to lead from the point of, I must have subjects for me to lead. But leadership is leadership, whether you have subjects or you don't have subjects, whether you have people who call you sir or you don't have people who call you sir. Leadership is leadership. Let me say this as I finish that part, that Christ served under his Father for 30 years. 30 good years. Then what we see today in the world that we talk about, he only did it for 3 years. So my point is, the most important value is that of waiting and serving in silence, so that when the time comes for God to catapult you to that great space, you don't fall into a chasm where you don't understand where you are, where you're headed, what you're doing, things like that. You're at a place where you understand, you gladly know this is what God has called me for, and I'm not trying to force myself into it. It's natural for me. Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. That is cool. Now, having talked about all that, I think we've come to the end of our session today. My name, I go by the name Charles Mutua, and today we've had Pastor Jason taking us through waiting tables, and it's been a good session, of course, and I've gotten to learn a lot. Thank you so much. Even as you get to view, we are delighted that you are our viewers. Thank you so much.